Hi,
Hi,
how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Okay. We were just talking about this daylight saving time. Um, th- in the fall, it works out to our favor as not morning people.
Yes,
So I'm very well rested.
same. Yeah.
And it's been, oh my God, I mean, climate wise, it's been a pretty serious week. We had a lot of flooding and it wasn't Melissa, the hurricane that devastated Jamaica. It was a separate nor'easter
Oh,
that came through and just, oh God, yeah, so many people without power on Staten Island. Um, but and then we had the wind all the next day on Friday.
yeah.
So fun times.
Yeah. It wasn't so bad down by me, but I count myself lucky for that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, welcome to Goodnight, Mr. Holmes, a podcast about the Granada Sherlock Holmes, which ran on ITV in the UK between 1984 and 1994, and ran on Masterpiece Mystery in the US around the same time. I'm Laura,
And I'm Rachel.
and today we are looking at episode 28 in the series called Shoscombe Old Place, and I'm going to have problems pronouncing that.
It is a bit of a tongue twister. This first published in, I got various dates when I looked it up. So let's just say it was published in the 1920s in something.
Okay. Well, we're back in the world of horses. And, there are so many similarities between this and Silver Blaze in a lot of ways,
Mhm.
although the story is completely different. But the episode opens in a stable where Sir Robert Norberton is petting the prince.
I noticed there was a moose head, like a trophy,
Oh,
high on
God.
the wall. over the horse, like this is what will happen to you if you lose.
Oh, my God. I didn't even think of that. I missed that detail entirely. He's interrupted by the trainer, Mason, who comes in with Joe Barnes, who is played by a very young Jude Law. It is Jude Law's third TV role, and he
Wow.
is such a little baby face.
Yeah.
Very, very different from when he played Dr. Watson in the 2009 Guy Ritchie Sherlock Holmes, which we'll circle back around to at the end. Um, Mason introduces Joe as Josiah's boy, whatever that means. Um, but Sir Robert seems annoyed. I know who he is. What's he doing here? He snaps. He's keen to race horses, Mason says. Joe Barnes tells Sir Robert that he can ride, and he wants to be a jockey more than anything in the world.
Unfortunately, he is too big to be a jockey.
I
So,
had the same exact note. That's good, very good. But what has it got to do with me? Sir Robert asks. I thought I could work for you, Joe says. I have all the jockeys I need, Sir Robert says. And Joe's begging. He says, I'll muck out the stables, I'll clean the yard, anything you want.
and Sir Robert says, anything, huh? Hmm.
He ties his ascot and he says, I'll think about it. Sir Robert is played by Robin Ellis, who was the original Poldark in the 1970s version of the series.
That's cool.
Yeah. So Joe thanks him, and just then they're interrupted by a fourth man who comes in and says, there's trouble back at the house, and Sir Robert needs to come quick. And at the house, a man, accompanied by a thug, is striding past the ineffectual butler, who is exclaiming that Lady Beatrice is unwell and unable to see anyone. The man sneers, I think she'll make an exception in my case. This is Simon Brewer. He threatens the butler with force just as Sir Robert enters the hall. You'll answer to me first, Brewer, he says. The butler says Brewer's here to see Lady Beatrice, but Sir Robert closes in on Brewer. I warned you never to come here. Our business can be discussed at your office, not here. I've tried to settle this matter on a number of occasions, as you well know, Brewer says.
And my note here is, oh, someone's in debt.
Uh-huh. You've got a nerve coming here after Newmarket, Sir Robert says. And, knowing what happens at Newmarket, I'm like, I don't think Brewer is the one with the nerve. I'm leaving nothing to chance this time, Brewer says. He backs up and shouts, perhaps Lady Beatrice will be more prepared to listen to reason. Your business is with me, Brewer, and with no one else, Sir Robert says. It would certainly be of concern to Lady Beatrice, Brewer exclaimed loudly. At which point Lady Beatrice enters the room, escorted by a maid.
And Brewer says, "Oh, did you hear that? Oh, I'm so sorry."
And Lady Beatrice is dressed in a lilac nightgown and a silk robe combination. She looks kind of washed out and pale.
Yeah.
Who are these people? What do they want? She asks. I'll tell you what I want, Lady Beatrice, Brewer says. Sir Robert is yelling, get him out of here. I want what's rightfully mine, Brewer says.
And Sir Robert says, I am an English aristocrat, sir. What's rightfully yours is rightfully mine to keep.
Yes. But he's a sir. He's not a lord. So that means either he's a knight or a baronet. He's not even a baron. That's my snobbery. And the thug and Mason are holding Sir Robert back as he's lunging towards Brewer. Get out of here. Go while you can still walk, Sir Robert says. Brewer leaves, saying he'll be back. Sir Robert goes over to Lady Beatrice. I'm sorry you've been upset, my dear, he says. What did he mean, Robert? What's rightfully his? Nothing for you to worry about, Sir Robert says. Oh, but I do worry, Robert. I know you too well.
Yeah, what do you think he meant?
Sir Robert kisses her hand and then her cheek, and he looks at the maid, who takes Lady Beatrice back to her room. He won't bother us again, Sir Robert says. Brewer is in a coach and four, along with his thug, leaving the estate. What should we do if he comes back, sir? Mason asks. If he does come back, I'll deal with him myself, Sir Robert says. That's going to go well. Outside the gate of the estate, Joe Barnes watches as Sir Robert saddles up and rides off. He joins two other men, also on horseback, and they all ride away. And then we're at 221B. And Holmes is rattling around some papers, while Mrs. Hudson looks disapprovingly at the uneaten boiled eggs she's brought up for him.
And by rattling around his papers, he's, as usual, flinging them around.
Yes, everywhere.
Like no wonder he can never find anything.
And again, I love those egg cozies, and I need to make some. I love a soft-boiled egg in a cup like that. Watson catches her eye and directs her attention to Holmes's room, where he continues to toss the newspapers around. Holmes calls out, Watson, do you know anything of racing? I ought to. I pay for it with about half my wound pension, Watson says.
Yeah, I mean, we know he gambles.
Does he get two wound pensions? One for the children, one for the...
Is he defrauding the British government?
But yes, it's canon that he's a gambling man. Then I make you my handy guide to the turf, Holmes says, coming out and sitting at the breakfast table. Does the name Sir Robert Norton recall anything? A little, Watson says. Holmes flinches. He's burned his hand on the teapot. He's got a horse running in the Champion Stakes. He lives at Shoscombe Hall. The stables are known locally as Shoscombe Old Place. But you don't know the man himself. I've never met him, if that's what you mean, Watson says. And Holmes frowns and looks away.
You disappointed me again.
That's right. He has a reputation for being rather a dangerous man, Watson says. How dangerous? Holmes asks, quickly pivoting back to Watson. I remember an incident some months ago where he horsewhipped a man on Newmarket Heath. Samuel Brewer, the Curzon Street moneylender, Holmes says. So, yes, that's what happened in Newmarket. Curzon Street is in Mayfair in London and is a very colorful part of the history of London. There's a church there where a lot of unsanctioned marriages took place before the Marriage Act of 1753, which required Anglican church weddings to be the only legal way to get married in England. Also, Curzon Street is where both Mama Cass Elliot and Keith Moon of The Who both died. It's posh being in Mayfair, and a lot of peers and gentry had their London townhouses there.
So does that mean if a Jewish couple got married in a synagogue, they would not be considered legally married?
I don't know all the loopholes. I mean, I don't even think, did Jewish people even, were they recognized in any way legally? Yeah, I don't know either. But I do know that.
I think Cromwell opened the door again for Jews.
Oh, okay.
Unofficially, he was asked by Jewish leaders to make a public announcement. And after looking into the banishment of the Jews under, I think it was Edward the First, he refused, saying, no, that order wasn't legal to begin with, and I'm not going to give it any credibility by finishing an illegal order.
As it turns out, I'm looking at this now. Jews and Quakers were exempted.
Okay.
Although the act did not go so far as to declare such marriages valid, and it was many years before their legal standing was assured, of course. Nor did the act apply to members of the British royal family. Naturally.
You can still get married in secret. That's fine.
Well, and they did. They absolutely did. George the Fourth, absolutely, and all his brothers, yes, they absolutely did. Anyway, it was a whole thing. And that's where, Curzon Street. So Holmes is asking, what was the reason for this assault? Well, I imagine, Watson says, Sir Robert had a grudge against moneylenders.
Yeah, I was going to make that joke, but Watson beat me to it.
Holmes among us doesn't, or is heavily in their debt, Holmes points out. Well, by all accounts, he's so far down Queer Street, he may never find his way back again, Watson says. Meaning, of course, that Sir Robert is deeply in debt. I received a letter from John Mason, the head trainer at Shoscombe. It arrived an hour ago, Holmes says, pulling the letter out of his jacket pocket, and he hands it to Watson, who, as he does, reads it out loud for the benefit of us. Dear Mr.
Like, you can read that silently. I already know the contents.
Dear Mr. Holmes, you will no doubt have read of the disappearance of a number of days ago of Samuel Brewer. In the interest of my employer, Sir Robert Norberton, I should like to visit you and discuss a matter of the utmost urgency. And by this time, Holmes is pacing by the fireplace and pulling out his pocket watch. He suggests a convenient time and is already several minutes late.
This is me whenever I have a workman coming.
Yes.
Said you would be here at 10 o'clock and it is 10:01. Obviously coming.
Samuel Brewer's disappeared, Watson repeats. The newspapers make little of it, but let's hear more about Shoscombe, Holmes says. The Shoscombe Spaniels, the special pride of the lady of Shoscombe Place. Holmes cuts him off. The wife of Sir Robert Norberton, I presume. No, he never married. He lives with his widowed sister, Lady Beatrice Falder. You mean she lives with him, Holmes says. No, the place belonged to her late husband, Sir James. What should be amiss at Shoscombe? What indeed, Holmes says. Just then, a knock on the door.
So he's mooching off of his sister.
Yes, he is. Here, I expect, is the man who can tell us. Mrs. Hudson opens the door, and before she can bring in Mason, Holmes immediately complains, my eggs were hard-boiled.
Your breakfast sucked.
Mrs. Hudson ignores this
with a look. She glares at him, and then
she says, she's like, I'm not even going to address this. There's a Mr. Mason to see you, sir, she says. Thank you, Mrs. Hudson. Show him in, and she does. You got my note, Mr. Holmes, Mason says. Yes, but it explained nothing. It is too delicate a thing for me to put the details on paper, Mason says. It's too complicated. You may rely on the discretion of my friend and colleague, Dr. Watson, Holmes says.
Who will be publishing this in the spring in the coming year.
Yes. Please sit down. And he gestures at the wicker couch, and all three men, sit down in various chairs. Mr. Holmes, I think Sir Robert Norberton has gone mad, Mason says. Please, this is Baker Street, not Harley Street. Holmes protests.
Why are you here with mental health issues?
Yes. Harley Street is still where a great many medical offices are. It's like a concentrated part of London where all the medical offices are. Why do you say so? I believe Shoscombe Prince in the Champion Stakes have turned his brain, Mason says. Holmes turns to Watson. Shoscombe Prince? Horse, Watson mouths. Watson.
Yeah, which was sort of odd since he whispered it like he was trying to help Holmes save face and tell him without the client realizing Holmes didn't already know, except that Holmes turned to him and asked out loud.
Right. And also then he says, Watson, you're invaluable. And then turns back to Mason and says, a horse. Finest in England, sir, Mason says. except for Silver Blaze. Now, the truth is, Sir Robert has got to win this race. He's up to his neck, and it's his last chance. He's wagered everything he could raise or borrow on the horse, and he's holding off his creditors until after the big race. If the prince fails him, he's done for.
Basically, he's living with his sister because he's too financially irresponsible to live on his own.
Yes. And run a stable. It's, it is his sister's stable.
Yeah.
And you're assuming there's a connection between Sir Robert's debts and the disappearance of Samuel Brewer, Holmes asks. He's Sir Robert's principal creditor, Mason says, and I don't mind admitting there's no love lost between them. Well, after what happened at Newmarket, Watson says, I'm not surprised. That was just the start, Mason says. Brewer showed his face at the hall last week, and Sir Robert flew at him like a man possessed, said he'd deal with him if he ever showed his face there again. Presumably, he's not returned, Watson says. I don't know, sir, not for sure. In the event of financial catastrophe, would Sir Robert have any claim on his sister's estate? Holmes asks. None at all, as far as I know. She only has a life interest, and it reverts to her husband's brother after her death. In the meantime, her ladyship draws the rents every year, and her brother spends them, Holmes says. That's about the size of it, says Mason. He must lead her the most uneasy life, Watson comments. Well, maybe so, Mason says, but they've always been the best of friends. They have the same tastes. She loves the horses as much as he does, or at least she did. And as Mason is telling this story, we see Lady Beatrice coming out in a little carriage escorted by her maid coming into the stable yard. Every day, Mason says, she'd ride down to the stables to see them. And above all, she loved the prince. And honestly, it's no wonder, because this horse...
It's really lovely horse.
Pure white, gorgeous, beautifully kept mane and tail. I swear to God, that tail is more heavily maintained than a lot of women's hair. Sir Robert approaches them. I can't wait to see their faces when this delightful creature is first past the post, he says. And Sir Robert and Mason are speculating on the size, of the wind, by how many lengths. And Lady Beatrice is stroking Sir Robert's arm. Just beware of raising your hopes too high, Robert, she says. You're not the only one who'd like to see his horse win the champion stakes.
I know how you always lose, Robert.
I'm the only one with a horse like Shoscombe Prince, Sir Robert says. Why, he's on such good form, you could ride him to victory yourself, my dear. I think not, Robert, she says. Our riding days are over. She gets back into the carriage with Sir Robert helping her. She seems weak.
Mm-hmm.
And the music is playing the Sherlock Holmes theme in kind of a minor key, and she's putting her hand to her mouth. You should be resting, my dear, Sir Robert says, looking concerned. No, I'm fine, Robert. She lies. I'm really fine. You know what the doctor said? You fuss even more than he does, she tells him. And a spaniel hops up into the trap. Jasper, good dog, Sir Robert says. As the maid joins Lady Beatrice, Sir Robert asks, and how is Carrie today? Carrie smiles. She's very pleased to be noticed. Oh, very well, thank you, Sir Robert. Then she sits down and her face kind of falls.
Yeah, the smile just vanishes. What
a
weird lady.
And Lady Beatrice scowls at her. So I guess she's being too forward by even answering the question. And then Lady Beatrice pulls her veil down from her hat to cover her face. Carrie is played by an actress named Denise Black, who did 288 episodes of Coronation Street. But she also played Mrs. Hudson in the Netflix show The Irregulars.
Oh.
Which was unfortunately canceled after one season. That show has a really cool cast.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean to check it out.
And it's not great things about it.
You've heard not great things or great things?
Not great things.
Well, it was canceled after the first season, but Rotten Tomatoes has it at 80%. So who knows? Ever since, her ladyship has driven past the stables with not so much as a good morning, Mason says. Do you think there's been some sort of quarrel? Watson asks. And a bitter, savage, spiteful quarrel at that, Mason says. Now he never goes near her. She hardly leaves her room except to take her daily drive. And I assume you've witnessed such a disagreement, Holmes asks. Well, no, not exactly, Mason says. But why else would he give away her pet spaniel, Mr. Holmes? She loved that dog as if it were her child.
Like, he gave away her
dog.
Get the fuck out of my house. You are
Yes.
no longer in my life.
Can you think of any reason why Sir Robert would wish to upset his sister in this fashion? None at all, Mason says. It's a cruel way to treat a woman with a weak heart, sir. Damn rotten. I must say, he does not appear to be committing any crime that I recognize, Holmes says, turning to Watson, because back then giving away your sister's dog was just something men were allowed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So why did Sir Robert leave the house at the dead of night, and who was the man that he met? Mason said, leaning forward. Go on, Holmes says. It was Stevens, the butler, who saw him leave, and he told me about it. And we're treated to the scene of some men trudging through a graveyard at night. So the next night we followed him. The men go around to the church by the graveyard, which is falling apart, and nature has begun to reclaim this. It's utter ruins. They look through a window to see Sir Robert pacing inside, in quotes, because inside is outside, when you have no roof or walls, and talking to a man who has their back to him, or has his back to them. It's going to be pointless, he's saying, but I feel that I have been bled and my ideas are selfish, but my sister, she doesn't feel strongly about it. So who was it, Holmes asked. Samuel Brewer? It was too dark to see his face, Mason says. When did Sir Robert give away his sister's dog? Holmes asks. A week ago today. Jasper was howling like a banshee at the mill house, but that was no good reason for the master to do what he did.
Oh, who's locked in the mill house?
Yes. See, Jasper at the door of the mill house, whining and crying. Sir Robert walks over to him and picks him up by his collar. The dog snarls justifiably at Sir Robert. And Sir Robert looks up at Mason, who's on the bridge over the stream that powers the mill. I want it off this estate, Sir Robert says. I don't care what you do with it, just as long as I never have to see it again. I gave the dog to Sandy Vane, the prince's jockey. The next morning, he took it to Josiah Barnes, the landlord at the Green Dragon in Crendel. Okay, that's who Josiah Barnes is. Mm-hmm. So we are in the south of England. Crendel is sort of in between, God, well, it's by Berkshire, but not in it. Mm-hmm. Does Lady Beatrice have a companion? Holmes asks. Her maid, Mason tells him. Just the one.
So, companion. It's not like it was illegal for women to walk around outside their home alone, but if you were in the upper class, it was frowned upon. So there arose this job called companion, where married women, who I believe were often but not always young, acted as kind of a combination of lady's maid and paid friend.
And chaperone.
Yeah. Well, and that's basically what it was. Somebody who would accompany upper class women who wanted autonomy outside home. You know, mm-hmm. having another woman with them took their excursions from socially unacceptable if they were alone, acceptable because
two men,
there's another woman with them.
Two women equals half a man.
Yeah, patriarchy is weird.
Yes. Well, I mean, if you think to the story Rebecca, the ingenue in that is starts out as a lady's companion.
Yep.
Harry Evans, she's been with her this 5 years, says Mason, and is no doubt devoted, Holmes says, smiling. She's devoted enough, I won't say to whom, Mason says. Oh.
So there's this implicit acknowledgement that this isn't a real friendship, it is a paid friendship.
Right. I can't tell tales out of school, Mason says, smiling. Sir Robert is something of a ladies' man, eh? Watson says. Takes one to know one. And he and Mason are smiling at one another. Do you not think the quarrel between brother and sister may lie there? That scandal has been pretty clear for a long time, Mason says, immediately telling tales out of school. But Lady Beatrice may not have seen it before. Let us suppose that she suddenly found it out, that she wanted to be rid of the hated maid. He will not permit it, and she refuses to speak to him. I mean, again, she's the one with the life interest in the estate. What business does he have permitting or not permitting anything?
Yeah, yep.
And Sir Robert, in his anger, gave away her dog, Watson chimes in. There's more to it than that, Mr. Holmes, Mason continues. Mr. Mason, you have the advantages of us. Perhaps there is something you have not told us. Mason nods, and he reaches into his jacket pocket and pulls out this white handkerchief balled up around something. There's a central heating furnace in the cellar, he says. Holmes sighs, looking gratified, and holds out his hand for it.
Yeah, he looks. Holmes is like, I knew it. He's been burning his bodies there.
Yes. We see a workman in the cellar stoking the furnace. It's been off for some time, but Sir Robert complained of cold and had it on again. Harvey ran it. He's one of my lads. Harvey, as he's poking around in the furnace, his jaw drops. He didn't like the look of it, Mr. Holmes, and he brought it to me last night. So Holmes is at his lab table washing whatever it was that Mason has given him in a basin. How often does Harvey attend the furnace? Holmes asks. He makes it up every evening and leaves it, Mason says. So anyone can visit during the night. Holmes is drying this thing off. I suppose so, Mason says, but the lad has the key to the outer door. I see, says Holmes. He hands the bundle to Watson. What is the name of the tavern you spoke of? Green Dragon. Is there any good fishing in that part of Berkshire? Holmes asks. There's trout in the mill stream and pike in the lake, Mason says. That's good enough, Holmes says. What do you make of it, Watson? Watson's rubbing the thing in the handkerchief. He's rubbing it dry. It's the upper contour of a femur, he says, handing it back to Holmes.
He has been burning bodies in the furnace. I would think the smell would be off-putting to anybody in the area.
And Holmes is unwrapping it, and he goes, human? Without a doubt, Watson says. And the music goes all dramatic as Holmes holds it up. It's disgusting.
Also, just a weird little side note, it takes a lot more heat.
Yes.
Most people are aware of to completely burn a human body. Like even when bodies are cremated, which is an incredible amount of heat, there's still chunks of bone that have to
They have to smash them. Yeah. They grind them up.
Yeah.
I know this because I've scattered mom's ashes. And they're very fine. They're like, ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like the whole burning at the stake thing, you're not left with a pile of ashes at the end. You're just left with a very burned body.
Right. So back at Shoscombe Hall, Mason is reading a telegram. It's a bluff, sir, he says, handing it to Sir Robert. Anyone could have sent it. It could be a tout. And a tout, I think we've explained before in the Silver Blaze episode, is a person who offers racing tips in exchange for a percentage of the winning bets. And they go and they spy on stables.
Yeah.
I don't care who it is, Sir Robert says. I need to know if there's any truth in what he's written. Carrie will be in charge of the house while I'm away. And Sir Robert paces away from Mason. Carrie, sir? Your concern must be for the prince's training, Sir Robert says. Nothing is more important than that. In Lady Beatrice's room, Carrie is brushing out the lady's hair, counting out the strokes. There's a knock on the door and the butler comes in. Yes, ma'am.
Counting out the strokes. In case anybody listening to this happens to be millennial or younger, there was brushing your hair 100 times at night was the sort of thing women were taught to do in the days before conditioners were invented.
Right.
The brushing stimulates the follicles to produce oil, which is then distributed down the hair by the brush.
Yep. So yeah, 100 times before bed. Thank you, Stevens. Please take the tray now, Carrie says rather imperiously. Stephen goes.
Lady Beatrice has quite the mullet.
Yes. Stephen goes to get the silver tray on which rests a glass that has milk residue in it. Sir Robert comes in the room as Stevens is leaving. I leave at dawn, he says to Carrie. In the morning, we see the horses and jockeys training by the lake. Mason is watching as the prince takes the lead, and I think it was Sandy Bain who is riding him.
I think so.
It's hard to tell. In Crendel, Holmes and Watson arrive at the Green Dragon. As gentlemen, they kind of stand out amid the crowd of working class people in the tavern. The landlord greets them. 2 rooms, is it? He asks. And 2 glasses of your best ale, Holmes says. Watson, looking over the room, notices a spaniel on a leash amid the people sitting at the tables. Good day, gentlemen, Holmes says. He walks over to the dog. Hello, old fellow. Oh, ladies, I'm so sorry. I didn't see you sitting there. I mean, he's just like putting on all his like.
Yeah.
Yes. Holmes sits down by the dog. He's petting it. Quite a bite in the air, isn't it? He remarks, and he leans over the dog. Oh, you'd much rather be free, wouldn't you? He asks. Watson sits down at a booth as Holmes cries out, Landlord, is it really necessary to keep the dog tied up like this? If I didn't, sir, it'd be off back to the hall in a jiffy, the landlord says. You see, sir, Jasper's a Shoscombe Spaniel. Oh, I should have known, Holmes says. You see, I'm quite a dog enthusiast myself. He tells the whole room. In case anyone was wondering. A young man comes in with Holmes and Watson's luggage, including a very large fishing net. The landlord yells at him to be careful, or I'll skin you alive. And he brings ale to the booth where Holmes has joined Watson. Don't mind him, sir. He takes after his mother. Then he asks, out for a bit of fishing? We thought we might try to land a pike or two at the Hall Lake, Holmes says. You might find yourself in the lake before you were through, the landlord says, and the room just erupts in laughter. Why is that? Watson asks. Sir Robert is terrible jealous of anyone who might be spying on his stables, the landlord says. We're not touts, Watson says. He's the sort that strikes first and speaks afterwards, the landlord says, and he goes back to the bar. Watson, I think we should take a little walk before lunch, Holmes says. Splendid idea, Watson says, kind of reluctantly.
Exercise.
Separating me from my food again.
Play.
Do you think we could take the dog with us, landlord? Holmes asks. By all means, gentlemen, the landlord says, but mind what I said about Sir Robert. Holmes nods, and he and Watson leave the Green Dragon. Watson starts off in one direction, but Holmes says, it's this way, Watson, and he leads the dog off down a path where some chickens are milling about. And they're walking past the lake when Watson says, what about Sir Robert? By my estimate, he should be well on his way to York by now, Holmes says. How do you know that? Watson asks him. That's where my telegram sent. Oh, it was him. Holmes, what have you been up to? Of course, Palmer's the favorite is stabled somewhere near York. I merely advised him that the horse has shown much improvement in the last few days, Holmes says. He won't be pleased when he finds he's been duped, Watson says. Oh, I'm sure he'll be furious, Holmes says. Sandy Bain comes down the path calling Jasper. Holmes leads Jasper up to Sandy Bain, who pets and kisses him. And he looks up at Holmes. Do I know you? No. But evidently Jasper knows you. You must be Sandy Bain. Yes, sir. It was you who brought Jasper to the tavern last week, Watson says. That's right. And why is he answering these questions? He doesn't know who these men are and why they know things about him. Are you fond of animals? Holmes asks. Well, they're all God's creatures, sir, Sandy Bain says. I won't see no harm come to them.
Aw.
I know. Mr. Mason seemed to think Jasper had a lucky escape, Watson says. He must have had a reason for behaving like he did, Sandy Bain says. Yes, I'm sure Mr. Robert had the best. I'm sure Sir Robert had the best of motives, Watson says.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm talking about Jasper. He's always such a quiet dog. Something must have happened to him. At the mill house, Holmes asks. No, sir, Sandy Bain says. At the cellar? No, sir, at the old church. It was the same morning I brought him to the Green Dragon. It's an old ruined chapel, and under it there's a crypt which has a bad name among us. We see
that anybody who goes in there is dead.
Funny how that happens with crypts. There's a great church, the Church of St. Martin in the Fields in London, that has a crypt that has a cafe in it.
Oh, wow.
And when I was in London a few years ago, I was there during the Christmas season, and I went there and I had Victoria sponge and tea with a friend. It was all done up for Christmas. It was really wild.
That sounds like fun, actually.
It was. So we see Sandy Bain walking Jasper past the chapel. Jasper tugs at his leash and runs away towards the building. And we're kind of seeing through the dog's eyes as Jasper makes his way through the overgrowth. And there's like statuary lying on the ground. There's a gargoyle overhead.
Yeah, it looks like if you were a child, it'd be a great place to play in.
I know. Yes. Well, except for the bear trap, but we'll get there.
Except for yeah.
Sandy Bain has the creeps. He reluctantly goes into the chapel, which has no roof, looking for Jasper. There are birds fluttering away, and we see Jasper whining at the door of the crypt. He's quite agitated. And as Sandy Bain releashes him, he hears the sounds of a man sobbing coming from the crypt. And Sandy Bain gets the fuck out of there, practically dragging Jasper along behind him.
Do you think he'd found a ghost? Like, open the damn door.
Right. I mean, somebody's crying. It might be a problem.
Maybe Lady Beatrice has been keeping someone in the church. She goes to visit him every day on her carriage rides.
Right. Holmes and Watson are listening to this, and Holmes is intrigued. How far are we away from the hall? Holmes asks. About a quarter of a mile, sir, says Sandy. Am I correct in thinking that Lady Beatrice takes her drive about midday? Yes, sir. Thank you. We've not a moment to lose. Come, Jasper. Come, Watson. And Holmes is saying this very musically. And they leave Sandy Bain there, standing utterly perplexed, just baffled. On the far side of the lake, Lady Beatrice's open carriage, it's kind of like a landau, is coming down the road with Lady Beatrice and Carrie in it. Lady Beatrice is fully veiled. You cannot see her face at all. Holmes and Watson hurry to meet it. Jasper's eagerly pulling on the leash as the carriage approaches. Holmes yells at Watson to stop the carriage, so Watson runs out into the road, holding up his hands and waving. Could you direct us to the Green Dragon Hotel? Watson asked. Like they hadn't just come from there. At that moment, Holmes lets go of Jasper's leash. Jasper comes running towards the carriage. Drive on, Carrie says. So for some reason, she's anxious to avoid the dog.
Yeah, Jasper.
Watson jumps back from the horses who are pulling the carriage as Carrie's like yelling at Jasper, stay there. Watson grabs Jasper by the collar as the carriage drives away, and poor Jasper looks so sad. Back at the Green Dragon, Holmes is saying, there is nothing we can do until Lady Beatrice takes her drive again tomorrow. You still haven't explained why I risked my life this afternoon, Watson says. To test a theory, Holmes says. Which is always putting Watson in danger, to test a theory.
To test a theory that the horses will be able to stop before they hit you.
Right. You must be very disappointed I was almost killed instead.
I was.
On the contrary, I think my experiment was quite successful. I don't see how, Watson says, and he's really glum and really pissed. Dog, Watson. The dog, Holmes says. Does that suggest nothing to you? Carrie Evans is determined to keep the dog and her mistress apart. So there is an alternative, Holmes says. Yes, that Sir Robert has done away with the money lender, Samuel Brewer. Don't forget the human bone that was found, Watson says. I haven't forgotten. It's perfectly clear to me they've crossed swords before. It's possible that Sir Robert has gone too far this time and he's guilty of murder. Watson drops his voice to a whisper. What the boy found is all that remains of the unfortunate moneylender. The landlord at that point comes over to the table. Oh, thank you, I'm famished, Holmes says. And the landlord pulls a pot off the fire and puts it on the table. Morning catch, best I've seen in a long time. And Holmes and Watson are looking dubiously at this bubbling pot of fish stew, and their eyes meet. These are deep waters, Watson. Deep and rather dirty.
It almost looks like there's something furry in the stew. Like it is mouse stew.
Wholly unappetizing. All I can think is you're boiling fish stew in close quarters. I mean, the smell is not going to be great. At Shoscombe Old Place at the stables, Holmes is telling Mason that he wants the key to the cellar. For what purpose, Mr. Holmes? To get inside, Holmes says. Where is Sir Robert? Sir Robert left for York yesterday morning. He isn't expected back till sometime tonight, Mason says. I'd show you. Go ahead. What's that?
The locks.
Yes. I'd show you around the house myself, but Master left Carrie in charge, and she won't let anyone pass the door. Again, he is not the master. The sister is.
Mm-hmm.
He left a maid in charge of the house, Holmes says. I told you things were bad between Master and her ladyship, Mason says. Whereabouts is Lady Beatrice's room? Holmes asks. It's on the ground floor on account of her ladyship's heart, Mason tells him. Precisely on the ground floor where? Holmes asks. So I can break into it. Second room in the corridor beside the cellar passageway. Has there been any change of the running of the house since we spoke at Baker Street? Not that I can think of, Mason says, apart from the fact that I had to dismiss Harvey, one of my stable lads. Wasn't he the one who found the bone in the furnace? Watson asks. That's right. What was the reason for his dismissal? Holmes asks. He'd stolen some money from the other staff, Mason says. Ah, here's the prince himself, Mr. Holmes. And Sandy Bain is on top of the horse as it comes into the stable yard. Mason goes over to stroke the horse's nose. Every inch a champion, wouldn't you say? Mason says. Yes, he's a very fine creature, but you're the expert, Watson. Oh, hardly an expert, Holmes. I'm aware of the prince's burst of speed at the final furlong, but the fact is he hasn't yet won a major race.
Yeah, and Watson's also like, I'm an expert. I lose a lot.
Yes. Perhaps he's bet on the prince before. You think he's still in with a good chance, Holmes says. If he's given the ground, then yes, Watson says. And Mason seems to approve of this. Back at the manor, Lady Beatrice and Carrie are getting into the carriage for their daily drive. Shoscombe Hall is, at least the exterior, Hatton Park in Cheshire, which is a National Trust property. So they rent it out for filming a lot. And again, this is Granada being cheap. Cheshire is near Manchester. So rather than go to the south of England for an on-location shoot in Berkshire, they're sticking close to home. The carriage takes off. Lady Beatrice is still fully veiled. Watson watches them leave from behind an archway, and then he goes up to the front door and rings the bell. This is a hilarious scene. As Stevens shuffles to the door and opens it, Watson smiles. He's got his doctor bag with him. Good afternoon. You must be Stevens, he says, cheerfully coming inside. That's right, sir, the butler says, looking confused. I'm the doctor, Watson says. Which, Doctor who?
The doctor.
But, I mean, that's what Doctor Who says. I'm the doctor. Sir Robert asked me to call on his sister at the first opportunity. I'm new to the area. He said nothing to me, Stephen says. Her ladyship is out taking her carriage exercise at the moment. How long is she? Yeah, exercise. She's
exercising her carriage.
Yes. The horses. How long is she likely to be? Watson asks. No more than half an hour, sir, Stephen says. So strenuous exercise. In that case, I don't mind waiting. Watson's still smiling confidently as Stevens gives him a really puzzled look and starts to walk away. Watson follows him a few steps. You appear to be in some pain yourself, sir. Or not, sir, he says. Oh, yes, it's the rheumatiz, sir, Stevens says. These old bones have taken a pounding in their time. Health's not what it was. Stevens is played by Michael Bilton, who had a big part in To the Manor Born in the early 80s. His face is so incredibly expressive.
Yeah.
He's lugubrious. You know, he's got these bug eyes. Even his nose droops.
I have to note that he looks like Mel Brooks.
Yeah, a little. Yeah. I looked him up on IMDb. He was in this movie with Mia Farrow called The Haunting of Julia in 1977.
Oh, yeah.
Alongside dun, 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 Edward Hardwick.
I don't remember that. Wow.
Yeah. And Elizabeth Weaver, who plays Lady Beatrice, is in the movie too.
Wow.
Yeah.
The reunion.
I know. Why don't you tell me about it? Watson says. I'm here. I might as well make myself useful. And they walk off as Stevens begins to describe his symptoms in rigorous detail. Down in the cellar, Holmes approaches the furnace and promptly burns his gloved hand on the door handle.
Yeah, for some reason we have Holmes burning himself on things as a running theme.
Yes. He opens the bottom chamber of the furnace where the ashes are, and he pokes through them, and he hits something. Turns out it's a charred notebook with a shield on it that says SB. So he picks it up, and he leaves the cellar. Watson is having tea with the butler in the servants' hall. The butler is, of course, continuing to drone about all his symptoms, and Watson pretending to be fascinated.
Did I tell you about my feet?
Yeah. Block voice. He spots Holmes out the window. The butler continues to recite practically every bone in his body that hurts. And then he says, leaning close to Watson while the cook is stirring something, there's the other trouble. The other trouble, Watson says. You know, the other trouble. Stevens repeats, and he's giving Watson this meaningful look. Watson looks completely lost. I'm assuming he's talking about erectile dysfunction.
Yeah, he needs a Viagra prescription.
But for what?
The cook is there.
Like,
and
yeah.
so he doesn't want to say it out loud.
Right. Holmes has sneaked into the ground floor of the house and goes into Lady Beatrice's room. He smells her pillow.
Yes, he indulges his pillow sniffing hobby.
And the curtain at her bedside. And then he sits down at her vanity and smells her perfume and her face powder and her brushes.
None of that seems to go anywhere.
No. And he puts everything back exactly where it was, except he takes a sample of hair from the hairbrush.
And he puts everything down, like you can see the little dust marks. He makes sure it goes right in the dust marks. Also, what is the maid doing that there's dust on there?
Oh no, it's the dust from the powder.
But that still should have been cleaned up.
Well, it should have been, yes. Watson continues with Stevens, feeling his pulse, pretending to care, when Lady Beatrice returns. Watson packs up quickly, just as the cook was rolling up her sleeve for some kind of examination. Lady Beatrice and Carrie walk down the corridor to Lady Beatrice's room, where Holmes is still lingering.
I have the note here. I'm starting to doubt that's Lady Beatrice. They're being careful to hide her face.
Yes, completely veiled, all the way up to the door. They come into the room, at which point Lady Beatrice begins to take off her veil, and Carrie looks around and says, strange. So she knows someone's been in the room. Watson walks away from the manor house across the wide front lawn, and then he sees Holmes hiding behind a gigantic tree. Holmes, thank heavens, he says. Fortunately, the bedroom was on the ground floor, Holmes says, so presumably he escaped out the window. Mm-hmm. Did you have any luck? Watson says. 2 things are still unclear, but before the night is out, I hope to have solved the mystery of Shoscombe Old Place. And they stride off quickly together. At the Green Dragon, they're in Holmes's room. Holmes has packed his microscope and other instruments, as well as at least 9, I counted them, thick books. Watson is looking at the little notebook labeled SB. He's over by the window. If Samuel Brewer returned to the hall to demand his money, he might have done so at night. He could have been the man that Sir Robert met at the old church. Perhaps Sir Robert flew into one of his rages and killed him, and in a moment of sheer panic, tried to dispose of the body by putting it into the furnace, hence the note case. Watson tosses the notebook onto the table. Holmes flinches. Watson, the vibrations, he said. And Watson sighs. If perhaps, maybe, amid all the evidence we have so far that is purely circumstantial, Holmes is examining the hair that he collected from Lady Beatrice's brushes under the microscope. And then he holds up the hair, puts it on this old envelope, and starts scraping at it with a penknife. Some small debris falls on the envelope, and Holmes picks it up, a speck of it up with his tweezers. Resin, he says. Actually, he says, resin. Resin, Watson says. And Holmes holds the tweezers to the flame of the candle on the table, and they flare.
Was resin used in making wigs?
I believe so. It would have to have been.
Yeah.
On an alcohol base, he says. Traces of it on a few strands of hair found in Lady Beatrice's room. He drops the tweezers on the table and gets up. Come, Watson, the telegram will not keep Sir Robert away much longer. Where are we going? Watson asks. And of course, Holmes doesn't answer him. At the stables, Mason's going about his business alongside Sandy Bain when Sir Robert comes through the door looking outraged. What happened while I was away? Sir Robert asks. Nothing, sir. Don't lie to me. Something's been going on behind my back, Sir Robert snaps. Sandy Bain is watching, looking worried. Has anyone been around here asking questions?
No one, except the private detective.
Yeah, Mason says, no one, sir. And then Sir Robert turns to Sandy Bain, who blinks rapidly. It says, apart from some people I met near Crendell. Sir Robert closes in on him. I don't know their names, Sandy says. What did you talk about?
I answered all their questions, though.
Right. What did you talk about? Nothing much. They were interested in the old church, Sandy said. Fool, Sir Robert yells. And he glares at Sandy, and then he leaves.
Don't you know I have somebody locked up in there?
Holmes and Watson are wandering through the woods, and to me, it looked like it might be Delamere Forest, which is the largest forest in Cheshire. I was looking at pictures of it online, and they looked exactly like the scenery. Well, if Samuel Brewer was not the victim, Watson is saying, why was his note case found in the cellar of the hall? Who else in the household has the initials SB? Holmes asks. Watson thinks on this. Sandy Bain. Harvey was dismissed for stealing from other members of the household. One of his duties was to tend the furnace in the cellar, Holmes says. The fact remains that a body was burned. If it wasn't Brewer's, then whose was it? And Holmes doesn't answer. So I guess the notebook is actually kind of like a case where, like a wallet type thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it looked like a notebook to me.
Yeah.
At the manor house, Carrie is coming out of Lady Beatrice's room. Sir Robert approaches her. She whispers to him that there were two men snooping around, and she told them to go. Holmes and Watson enter the remains of the chapel, where there is a large trap, like a bear trap, that they pass by without noticing. And then Watson does see a burlap sack on the ground, and he picks it up, and underneath is a lantern and some candles. How convenient. They light the lantern. This is like a video game.
I know. Holmes burns himself on the lantern and on the
They go into the crypt of the chapel with it. Watson's carrying an additional candle, which he uses to light some votive candles in the crypt along the way.
I have to know, one of them should have waited outside.
You think?
Locked in.
They go into a tomb where there's a red coffin on a plinth below a crucifix. What could you possibly hope to find in a place like this? Watson asks. Holmes fingers the coffin. The lead lining has been cut, he says, and he picks at the bolt of the coffin.
The zombie trying to get out.
Right. Just as I thought, he says, Watson, I'm going to need your help opening this. Holmes, that's desecration, Watson exclaims, utterly horrified.
Let the zombie out.
We've reached a pretty Gothic place in this tale. The two men open the coffin where they see a very large furry spider. And then Sir Robert comes crashing into the crypt. Who are you? He demands. What are you doing to my property? Do you hear? Who are you? What are you doing here? It's not his property. Holmes holds up his lantern and gestures with his head towards the open coffin where the spider is still crawling. The music thunders ominously at this point, and Sir Robert puts his hand to his head. He looks like he's going to burst into tears, and he flees.
He has arachnophobia.
That was my first thought, actually. Holmes and Watson go after him. Although, why? I mean, it looked like a tarantula. What's a tarantula doing in England? As Sir Robert is stumbling out, sobbing, his foot is caught in the big bear trap, and he falls to the ground, howling.
And as an animal lover, all I can say is, LOL.
Mason comes running as Holmes pries open the trap. Mr. Holmes, what's happening? A good question, Mr. Mason, and one that should be directed at Sir Robert, Holmes says. He frees Sir Robert's foot, fortunately mostly protected by his riding boot, as Watson mutters, these disgusting contraptions. So yes, Watson is a man after your own heart. Holmes then bursts into Lady Beatrice's room as the veiled lady is sitting at her vanity table. Carrie whirls around, and they're still in their carriage riding clothes. How dare you? Get out, she hisses. I was going to join you for tea, but I see I'm too late, Holmes says, gesturing at a tea tray that also seems to be holding a bottle of brandy on it. Get out this instant, or I'll call for Sir Robert. Sir Robert knows I'm here, Holmes says. Please, Miss Evans, will you sit down? And she does. Lady Beatrice keeps her back to both of them. I felt I couldn't visit Shoscombe Old Place without paying my respects to Lady Beatrice, Holmes says, who does not turn around or acknowledge them in any way. Oh, you have brandy with your tea, he notes. For medicinal purposes, of course, Carrie says. Yes, of course, Holmes agrees. But is it enough, I wonder? Enough for what? Brandy revives the spirits, Holmes says, but I hardly think it is sufficient to raise the dead. At this, Lady Beatrice...
But it revives the spirits.
Yes. Recursively, over and over again. So Lady Beatrice turns a little bit. Carrie starts, but Holmes holds up his hand. Don't move, Miss Evans. Then he approaches Lady Beatrice and pulls off the hat and the veil, and we're seeing this in slow motion. As the veil rises, it's Joe Barnes's face beneath it, covered with white makeup.
Weekend at Beatrice's.
Yes. In the sitting room or the library, one of those big rooms, Watson is attending to Sir Robert's foot. Carrie is tending to Barnes, who is sobbing. She's wiping the makeup off his face. I am Sherlock Holmes. Perhaps my name is familiar to you, Holmes says to Sir Robert. I know appearances are against me, Sir Robert replies, but you must believe that I could act in no other way. I'm very happy to hear you say so, Holmes says, but I feel your explanation should be for the police. And at this point, Joe Barnes comes over. Please, Sir Robert, he says, his little baby face. The responsibility for what has been done is entirely mine, Sir Robert says. Miss Evans and Joe Barnes were merely following my instructions. You must promise that they will come to no harm. I can promise you nothing, Holmes says, but I will hear a plain statement of the facts. Yes, well, Sir Robert says, you've clearly gone pretty deeply into my affairs. Otherwise, I should not have found you where I did. I've always known that if Beatrice died, the estate would revert to my brother-in-law's family. Everything would be seized, including the stables and the horses. Well, Mr. Holmes, my sister did die just a week ago. And you told no one, Holmes.
Obviously.
I had little alternative. If I told the truth, I could face absolute ruin. Well, it's his own fault. But if I could stave things off until the race, I knew all might be well. Beatrice died of the heart condition that had long affected her. That will be for the coroner to decide, Watson says. Her own doctor will certify that for months her symptoms threatened such an end. Joe Barnes came to see me in search of work a day or two before Beatrice died. He seemed a trustworthy lad, and it came into my mind that he might, for a short time, impersonate my dear sister. It was but a case of appearing daily in her carriage, for no one need enter her room save Miss Evans. Of course, I had to take her into my confidence. The whole deception distressed me greatly, but I could see no other course to take. Like, at this point, I'm like,
really, I'm the victim here.
Yeah. The entitlement, that, oh God, just the absolute arrogance. Naturally, the body couldn't remain in the bedroom, Sir Robert continues. And so we see him with Joe and Jasper by the mill house. On the first night, Joe and I carried it out to the old mill house. We were followed by her pet spaniel, which afterwards howled continuously at the door. So I felt some safer place was needed. I got rid of the dog, and we carried Beatrice to the crypt of the church. It seemed to me no unworthy resting place if we put her for a time in the coffin of one of her husband's ancestors, lying in what is still consecrated ground, which, ew.
Yeah.
I paid my respects to her there every day, Sir Robert says, and we see him in the crypt with Lady Beatrice in the coffin. He's sobbing. Joe is watching all of this, and he puts a comforting hand on Sir Robert's shoulder. As to the old relics we took from the coffin, Joe and I removed them. He descended from the bedroom at night and burned them in the furnace, Sir Robert says. Was it necessary to lay that monstrous trap? Watson asks. Like, that's the big deal.
Well, to be fair, I would probably be the one harping on that too. Yeah. Your sister's dead. But about that bear trap.
I was determined that no one should disturb my sister's rest, Sir Robert says. But how you suspected her
no
death...
one's going to, because she's dead.
Right. How you suspected her death, I could not imagine. Well, yesterday, when Miss Evans ordered the carriage to drive on, I concluded that she was afraid of something. I suspected that something was Jasper. Miss Evans knew that dogs do not make mistakes. He would have known that it wasn't his mistress. And Holmes then waves his hand in front of his face, kind of dismissively. But we must leave all this to the police. But why, Sir Robert? A day or two is all I need. Say nothing till then, I beg you. The race will have been run. My nightmare might be over. I loved Beatrice with all my heart. There was no indignity or irreverence, except rolling her up in a rug and putting her in a mill house.
Denying her a funeral.
I don't feel I have wronged the dead. Oh, yeah, well, you have. I realize my motives were selfish, but my sister would not have wished to see me destroyed.
I'm sure if you could have asked her, she would have said that this was what she wanted.
I mean, this guy got himself in a ton of debt and was pinning all his hopes on a single race like a gambler, and is just asking Holmes to let him go.
Yep.
Holmes stands up. He points his cane at Sir Robert. That does not entitle you to break the law, he says.
I am an aristocrat. Of course it does.
Well, Sir Robert sighs. And then we're back at 221B. Watson is reading the paper while Holmes meditates or something. Listen to this, Holmes, Watson says. Following the success of Shoscombe Prince, say that 5 times fast, in yesterday's champion stakes, Sir Robert has received sufficient winnings to settle all his debts, with enough, magically, left to reestablish him in a fair position in life. Ah, Holmes says.
Fair.
However, the victory was marred by the sudden death of Sir Robert's sister, Lady Beatrice Falder, whose love of horses was at least as great as his own. Well, that's the myth. Watson tut-tuts at this, shaking his head, while Holmes gives a slight smile. Even the elusive Samuel Brewer has returned from his hideaway in France to send a telegram of congratulations to Sir Robert on his win. Watson kind of rolls his eyes at this. It transpires that even creditors can have their creditors, Holmes says. It explains why Samuel Brewer was so anxious to get his money back. To send a telegram, such a barefaced hypocrisy, Watson says. And
You
then
should have gone in person.
Holmes suddenly turns to look at Watson. So, how much did you win on Shoscombe Prince? And Watson looks suddenly very uncomfortable. 20 guineas. Disgraceful, Holmes says. I mean, they're just horrible, horrible, horrible men. Mrs. Hudson comes in with a tray, some glasses, and champagne. Champagne, Mrs. Hudson, Watson asks. Of course, in the circumstances, Mrs. Hudson replies. It's very good of you, but I've only won 20 guineas. Plus my 10, Mrs. Hudson.
I love
it. You're not the only one who likes a plunge on the horses from time to time, Doctor. And Holmes literally hoots at this. And then it's his turn to tut. And the episode comes to an end. So the main difference between this version and the original is that the maid, Carrie, enlisted her husband to play Lady Beatrice for the week between the lady's death and the race. And then when Jasper was following the carriage, it was the husband who shouted from underneath the veil, "Drive on!" And that was part of the giveaway for Holmes. So Jude Law was really, really lucky that they reworked the story in this way.
Yeah.
When he was promoting the Guy Ritchie movie, where, of course, he played Watson, he appeared on David Letterman, and they showed the clip of Holmes taking off the lady's veil to reveal Joe Barnes. And I was trying to find the video because I wanted to see the audience reaction, but I could not manage to locate it because in 2009, Joaquin Phoenix had a deeply weird interview with Letterman that was drowning out all the search results. Bending the Willow doesn't even mention Law, but that's because it was written in 1996, and Law didn't really break out until 1999 with The Talented Mr. Ripley. After that, his career really took off. And I was thinking it was too bad he couldn't be in The Haunting of Julia along with everybody else in the show. But he was only 5 when that movie was made.
It's a pretty good movie, as I recall. It's based on a Peter Straub book.
Yes, a Peter Straub book. And as you know, I'm deep into Stephen King land at the moment, which includes some Peter Straub stuff.
Yeah, she's haunted by the ghost of her daughter. Her daughter had choked on something.
Oh,
and
no.
ambulance wasn't going to get there in time, so she I guess the Heimlich maneuver didn't work or something. So she tries to do a tracheotomy herself.
Oh
no. Anyway, her ghost of her daughter is haunting her, so we know how that is. Yeah.
Oh my God. The Heimlich maneuver was not invented until I'm looking it up. 1962. No, wait, that's the flutter valve. No, the maneuver, 1974. So it probably wasn't popularized by 1977, which is when the movie was made.
Yeah, I don't remember offhand when the book was published.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. But this episode, just so many men.
Mm-hmm.
And this poor woman, I was so disgusted with Sir Robert, just absolutely disgusted. And I was disgusted with Holmes for not pursuing him more vigorously at the end.
Yeah, and you said off mic, you said in the story that the police do get involved.
They do, but they let him off easy. I guess because he's got a lot of money now.
Yeah.
But they do get involved. And in this version, they don't. We don't see a single cop. So, yeah, come for Sherlock Holmes, stay for Jude Law. Any thoughts on this episode?
Pretty much what you mentioned. It's just, yeah.
It makes me tired. It makes me tired.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a pretty straightforward episode too. There's not a lot of like ins and outs and like weird stuff to research.
Yeah.
So my research went by very quickly.
Yeah.
Relatively speaking. It's the transcription that bogs me down. But it's hard to tell the story without it.
Yeah.
Compellingly.
Yes.
Well,
okay, so that's all from us this week. If you've enjoyed the show and haven't subscribed yet, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to support us, you can leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, tell your friends, and join us next week when we'll be discussing the Boscombe Valley Mystery.
oh, sweet. I like that one. I
Never-
think. I have good associations with it
Okay.
in my subconscious. All right, then. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.